welcome. We have a special guest, which the caption is already up. We have a special guest today, Investor Mel and Dave. We're actually here live, so if you guys have questions or comments, please put in the chat. We will put them up on the screen and we'll answer them live. So we're gonna hop right into it. We have Investor Mel and Dave. How you guys doing today? Happy Thursday. I look at the calendar.
Hello. Hey, thanks, Daniel, for having us today.
Thanks for having us on. Yeah, happy Thursday right back at you.
So are you guys from Canada, or what part of the country are you from?
We are, yes. We're located in Canada, but we also invest in 5 countries total. So, including the U.S.
That's crazy. So what 5 countries do you invest in?
Canada, U.S. We're in Texas and Florida. Yeah, so Canada, U.S., Costa Rica, Mexico, and Dominican Republic for now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. I hope to be across multiple markets as well. Right now, it's just U.S. based right now, but it's very interesting to. Quick question about that? How is it? Is it difficult to invest in other countries? You have to get like a bank account, and you have to like register to get a company in some of these countries, or how does that work?
Exactly. And honestly, Daniel, the biggest thing that we've noticed is doing it in 5 countries. The nuances is and it's kind of like any real estate, is the accounting stuff, right? Like the legal and all that, yes. But it's the accounting, because it's all, how is that income going to be treated back home? So it's all making sure tax treaties, what is the code? How do I structure myself there to be compliant? And it's just to avoid double taxation, right? Legally, I don't want to give governments any money, but I know we have to, but I don't want to give 2 governments more money than I would have to legally. So that's the biggest nuance, is the accounting structure.
Other than that, once you actually own the properties, the property management, because of course you're going to have different teams since you're in different areas managing your properties. We have an asset manager to help us with that, who's communicating with the teams as well. But overall, I mean, it's a great way to really diversify your portfolio, and we love it because we love traveling. We love traveling with the kids, so we get to go on many trips in a year.
No, that's amazing. It's amazing. What's crazy, and like, if everybody doing like real estate virtually, how important is your team?
Oh my gosh. And seriously, I love my team. I don't know what we would do without them. It's been a game changer, and it doesn't happen overnight, of course, sometimes as you get started in real estate, but we have a worldwide team. So yeah, we love our team, and we wouldn't be here without them.
What are some tips and tricks to find a team overseas? Because I think like finding the right people is always difficult, but finding the right people overseas might be another challenge even on top of that.
Yeah, your network, right? Your network is your net worth, and that's definitely how we've grown our network as well. Is having those right connections, being able to ask for referrals from different people, and then as these team members join our team, then we can ask them to help us with other members. So it's kind of that domino effect, and just being in different, I guess, even inside the Action family, right? Some of our team members were part of our program, and now they're part of the team. So just those kind of opportunities, just being able to really, once you find somebody, grabbing them and making sure you treat them well, and that you really make it a win-win with them.
No, that's amazing. One thing I heard right there is you found your team members from your community, and I think that's awesome. That's awesome. So how big is your community? How many people have you like taught or educated? How many people are part of like your current group right now? How big is that right now?
Yeah, so it's the Action family. Some of you might have, if you've seen us online, I'm sure you heard us talking proudly about our community. We're about 1,500 students as part of Action Takers, we call them, as part of the Action family. Canadian and US students as well. And it's all about buying properties, no money down, and no joint venture partners. So that's really what our specialty is. More and more of our students are doing what we're doing as well, starting to diversify in different countries as well. But essentially, it's really about buying the properties while still having sole ownership without the joint venture partners.
That's amazing. Are you guys going after larger assets too? Because that would definitely separate yourselves from everybody else.
Yeah, we're targeting some larger assets as well. We've kind of got some other things on the back end, kind of working on it. But and honestly, like the larger assets are kind of, they're sexier, right? It's exciting. But we also, like, how do I say this? We don't lose track of, like, Mel and I, we were able to quit our jobs on duplexes and triplexes, right? So it's kind of keeping that main thing the main thing. And If a building makes sense, whether it's got 2 doors or 10 doors, it's hey, what is the time in, what is the effort in, what is the the return on investment, all that stuff. So
Well, one
yes,
year we
both,
bought what?
all bigger ones and smaller ones, I guess is kind
One
of.
year we bought was it a triplex or fourplex and a 50plex? And people say, why would you buy different sizes? Because they both made financial sense, and we could get a nice lift from them. But yes, of course, some bigger assets that we're currently working on as well. But also acknowledging that, yeah, exactly. Especially when you get started, sometimes the smaller ones could be a great way to get definitely started. It definitely helped us get to where we are today.
So how long have you guys been doing this? Because it sounds like you've really made a lot of traction in a short amount of time, it seems like.
Yeah, we've been in real estate for about 23 years combined.
Yeah.
So when I first met Dave, I had 2 buildings. Dave had the one, was a single dwelling, and then we decided, hey, let's do this. Let's create wealth through real estate, and that was kind of our journey. We started using it. However, we did it the traditional way, using our own funds, working all the time, and of course, then we hit that common roadblock where we ran out of money. So that's where we had to get really creative, and we decided to get into creative financing, and that it was a game changer for us because and it is often for many investors out there as well. If you have some funds, the reality is if you use all your funds, you're at some point going to get run out of your money. And I wish I would have started right away with creative financing looking back, but it is what it is, of course. But it's so powerful because then you become limitless. You can buy, like, one year we bought 12 properties in 12 months, and they were all multifamily properties. At that time, there's definitely no way we'd had funds.
We couldn't afford it with our own money.
We couldn't afford it with our own money, so there's no way we would have had the funds to pay for the down payment, right? So.
One thing I love about creative financing is like it really amplifies what you do have. You don't have to have very much, and like you can get a no money down deal. They're out there. You have to negotiate those, but the money you do have can be amplified and stretched to do limitless deals, and that's the power of creative financing.
And Daniel, just to compound, and I 100% agree with you. That year that Mel's talking about, when we bought the 12 properties in 12 months, right, 56 units, we had a line of credit. I think it was like 70 or 80. Right. So that would be like our deposit, and it would be kind of some of the closing costs and that. But we were able to spread that 80K over X amount of properties. And then we negotiated closing costs as part of the deal. So yeah, I agree with you. If you have a certain amount of funds, like, because a lot of people will just dump it into one deal and then they're done, right? Or they got to wait exit. Like, no, spread the love. Make make you a lot more money and a lot more deals.
No, I think it's definitely it's definitely a hack, and the amplification of the cash you do have. So, creative finance. Have you always done creative finance, or like did you learn it like 3-5 years in, and like what was that? What was that process like?
Well, no, not at the beginning. We thought it was illegal.
Yeah, I thought it was like mafia, Hell's Angels. I'm like bookies. I'm like, I'm not getting my legs broken. Like I literally, I that's what we thought initially was. Seriously, we thought it was illegal or under the table stuff.
Yeah, and then we were on a trip in Florida, listening to Rich Dad Poor Dad, and although it didn't teach us how to do it, it definitely changed our mindset that, okay, we're doing it all wrong here, working all the time, trading our time for money. And that's when we decided to do it differently and really, spend a lot of time learning about creative financing. We met with a lot of successful real estate investors, did a lot of research. We also met with people who tried it and weren't successful as well, to really learn as well from their mistakes and their successes. And then the next year, that's when we bought the 12 and 12, and I was able to quit my full-time job the year after, which was amazing. And then Dave, he was
Shortly
a full-time,
after,
shortly after.
That's why we got the helmet, or if you move.
I don't know.
I was a
Somewhere back
firefighter.
there. Yeah, there we go. I don't know if you can see the yellow. He used to be a firefighter. So.
Oh, awesome. No, I used to be a truck driver, so it's almost.
Oh, hey. Awesome. And I worked at a local college. I was in business, so.
It's kind of interesting the path that you take and where you end up, and it's like, what? I used to do that.
Yeah. I know. It seems like a whole other life ago too. I worked at the government at one point. Anyway, yeah, I know. Now that we're real estate investors, I'm sure you're the same way. It's like, I can't believe I did that before. It doesn't even make sense. I'm a real estate investor, through in and out. Anyway,
I couldn't do my own schedule. What do you mean?
the own schedule thing is priceless for sure.
It's priceless.
I do have a creative finance question. So, have you used creative finance outside of the U.S.?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're doing it in 5 different countries. So we've done it in Canada, U.S., Costa Rica, Mexico, and most recently DR, Dominican Republic.
Yeah. And what's neat about it, like owner financing, that's often how we started off, was owner finance deals, for example, here in Canada, and then we started doing it elsewhere as well. But for Costa Rica, for example, that's exactly what we did there, was owner financing and a promissory note, for example, where the owner was willing to hold financing for us, and also use a promissory note.
No, I really want to hone in on that because a lot of people think like you can only do it in the U.S. I'm like, no. If you're creative, if you can creatively negotiate, you can creatively negotiate anything you want.
Well, you can, and just to be very clear here, before somebody negotiates an owner finance deal and thinks they have it done because it's a yes, we get deals all the time on coming through, on our desks, and some deals make cash flow, but it doesn't mean that we know how we're going to pay back these people, and that's why I have a big exit sign behind me there, is because you need to make sure that when you get into creative financing, that you know how you're going to be paying people back, and that's
we have a puppy here at our office,
yes,
so
there must be a visitor in the office.
Yeah, I might go grab her. She's a 6-month-old German Shepherd, so I'll be right back.
But it's yeah, exactly. You need to make sure you know exactly how you're going to pay back the lender, whether it's owner financing or you're using secured funds or you're using a promissory note. You need to know how you're going to pay them back before you enter the deal, because the reality is not every deal is going to make sense, and you will have to pass on some deals for sure. I've looked at some great deals where it cash flowed. I loved the location. The tenants were great. Like, there was so many check marks for me, but I didn't have a clear exit strategy, so I had to pass on the deal. And that's okay, because I'm in it for the long-term wealth and long-term success. So that's something really, really important to do as well as an investor.
So I have a question about your team. So is your team like in-house, or do you like third-party contracting where you kind of like partner with other people, or like are they all employees?
A variety of both. So we have many internal team, like we have a student success and social media internal team, and then we, our bookkeeping and all that, and then we also have some contractors like property management that we outsource. Those kind of things are more on the outsource side.
Okay. So I have a question for you, because we've done it before, but I don't know if you have. Have you used your online credibility to get a deal?
Yes, we have, absolutely. This reminds me, a deal that actually fell through was one. It was actually in Texas. It was a mobile home park, and that was something where we were negotiating with the real estate agent back and forth, and we were trying to do seller finance. And he's like, "Well, I don't know them. They're Canadian." He was reluctant. He was a little worried. And I said, "Well, just like, I didn't want to pull that card, but I said, just tell him to check out this on social media. Like, again, like, and then all of a sudden he was open to doing creative or seller financing.
So of course,
it's not our go-to, but
it does get, but I want to say this: when we bought the 12 properties in 12 months, nobody knew who we were. We were not investing in Mel and Dave. We were just Mel and Dave. We're still working,
showing up to deals with AC/DC t-shirts
and an old rusty van. But we had our exit strategy, and that definitely helped convince people and show the confidence in our deal. So if you're starting off and you're thinking, but hey, Mel and Dave, I don't have a following on social media. I don't, I'm not out there, and that's okay, because every investor has to start with their first deal. Every one of us have to have our first one, second one, and the neat thing about it, of course, the more you do it, the more your credibility goes up, the easier it does, the easier it does get.
Yeah.
So the reason why I bring that up, because my partner, he's like the sales side. So I don't know exactly how you guys are, but me and my partner, he's front end, and I'm like the back end person that does all the back end everything. And he was texting. He actually does actually text sellers and stuff like this. So he's like, I don't. The seller's like, how can I trust you? And how do I know you're a real person? And he's like, I have 1,000 videos. I have 1,000 videos on YouTube. Go check it out. And he just dropped a link.
Right. Yeah, and they do, of course, and good on them. They're doing their due diligence, because if you're on the flip side and you are looking to invest with somebody else, you should be doing your homework as well to make sure that they are real, that it's not scams, right, happening, type of thing.
Yeah, it's such an interesting dynamic. I thought I would never see or use that personally, but when people are tough and they give you they back up against the wall and kind of hide, and okay, we have to do something creative for this person.
Oh, there we go. Good for you.
It's kind of interesting what opportunity presents itself in different ways.
No, I agree.
So, what has been your most difficult thing you've came up with that you hit, because entrepreneurship, there's levels. Everybody thinks it's all sunshine and rainbows when you get to a certain level, but the problems just get bigger. So what was a big struggle that hit you early on that you really didn't know how to overcome, but looking back at it, oh, that was easy?
I have a quick one that I'm thinking of. At first we ran out of money, so we already touched on that one, so I'm not going to touch on that one. Got into creative financing. Okay, that's amazing. Now we have a huge growth, bought 12 properties in 12 months. That was 56 units, plus we had other ones, and we kept buying afterwards, and all of a sudden we're up to, I think, 87 doors. We were at that time still managing ourselves, the property management piece. So now it's we're bottleneck, we're self-managing. We had people doing the renovations and those kind of things, cleaning, but it's okay, it quickly got, because it was such great, huge growth, which was amazing, but all of a sudden it got really not fun, and we had no time, and we had to shift, and that's when the whole property management, delegating that. And at first we had our own internal team, and but then we found that was still a lot of work from us as well. So now we just outsource everything. But having those projects and being okay, I think for us was the reality of being okay to let it go. And I think that's a very common roadblock for many of us, that we want that control of it, because at the end of the day, nobody's going to care about your business as much as you do. And that's often the reality. But however, unless you delegate and unless you bring on other team members, whether internally or contractors, you will be up to here, and you won't be able to continue to grow, and you won't be doing the tasks that you're really good at and really enjoy, and that are probably higher income producing as well.
I think it's I saw this online, and it was one of those statements where like you said, no one works as hard as you do, but if you can find 2 employees that do 50% of you do, that's still equivalent.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Well, exactly. It's just looking at, okay, even if it's maybe I would have done it this way, but being okay that if it's not necessarily what I would have done, but they still care and they still do it very well. And while they're doing that, I'm able to look at the next deal instead of looking at the next country that I want to go in, or speak with an investor, or spend time with our students and doing those kind of tasks that we really enjoy instead. Then it's it's worth the return on the investment of having these team members or contractors.
No, that's awesome. So what's the delegation between you two? Because what I've seen with couples that work together, they try not to step on each other's toes. So what's the different actions you do in your own business from each other?
Well, I think it definitely changed as we grew. At first, I think we did everything together just to really make sure that we were doing it properly and have each other's eyes on it, and whatnot. And then naturally we divide and conquer on our passion and what we love doing. So Dave is definitely more with the accounting and lawyers and deals side of things. I'm more on the marketing, on the social media, on the relationships building with investors, those kind of things as well. So I kind of cover it a little
well,
bit.
It's kind of like you said with your partner. They're more front end and you're more back end, and that's kind of us. I like finding things and all that, but Mel's more of the integrator, right? Making sure we have the systems and we dot the I's and cross the T's. So
when it comes to vision, for sure, Dave is definitely the visionary. And I'm like, okay, these ideas are all amazing, but how are we going to make it all happen, right? So
no, it's amazing. I still put my wife does still stuff for us, but she's like a creative person. So I put her on the apparel. So she manages all the apparel side and the dropshipping website and all that stuff. So she has her own little thing in the business that helps us out. But it's a team effort from me and my partner, his wife, my wife, and hopefully my kids one day, and his kids one day. So it's one of those things where it's a team effort from a lot of different people pushing in the same direction.
Yeah, no, that's great.
That's awesome.
So, what is a quote that is yours or somebody else's that you resonate with?
I know one, but I think I'm stealing yours.
Quote by Mel Dupuis. There we go.
No, it's one that you like that we say all the time. It's an Albert Einstein one.
Oh, yes. How does it go?
Well,
Even if you don't quote it.
No, it's something
exactly.
about basically you can't solve a problem with the same mindset that created it, right? Like I absolutely love when I think about that. And I always think of people when they come to us for real estate investing, coaching and mentoring, like it's like, okay, you're thinking like a consumer. You want to be an investor, but you're thinking like a consumer. Like you can't be both. If you're wanting to buy properties and invest, you can't go into it with a consumer, especially if you're using creative financing, right?
Mhm.
Like you have to think like an investor. The other one I like.
And for example, and sorry, you can expand on your other one, but interest rate, right? That's something we all often get. Well, do you have to pay higher interest rate? Not necessarily, not always, sometimes, of course. But bigger picture, as an investor, if I'm able to buy 10 times the amount of properties
Mhm.
and I still get to cash flow and I get the appreciation over many years, of course, as opposed to having one that's just saving a little bit on interest, if you look at the bigger picture, where we're further ahead. So it's really having that investor focused mindset. Sorry, Dave, what was your second quote?
It was just I listened to well, we both listen to Rich Dad Poor Dad probably 4 times a year, the audio book, just while doing stuff. It just we pick up so many different things every time, and I was just listening to it again this past week, and he was just how did he say it? And it's not really a quote, but it's Robert Kiyosaki, so obviously everyone knows him. But it was just about how winners lose all the time, right? And they're just used to losing, right? And he was basically saying like a professional golfer, they've never not lost a ball, right? It is what it is, and they've lost tournaments, but like Michael Jordan's missed, so they're saying like 4,000 shots. Like winners lose, and that's okay, but winners are winners because they don't stop at that loss. And it was just, I've heard it so many times, but it was just the way he said it this time, or the way I listened to it this time. Um, Successful investors have all lost money, right? It is what it is, but they learn from it. And people who have never lost a dime are typically people that have never invested because they're so scared. So, like, which one would you rather? Anyway, it was just pretty cool listening to it again.
Both those quotes they're really really good because it's a different thing. Like if you're one of my buddies, he's one of my clients, but he's like producers are going to produce, consumers are going to consume. It's just one of those things where you have to really like switch it. You have to switch your old mentality off, like she said, to become that other person to fix that problem. Like there's a lot of things that go with it, but like whatever issue that you didn't resolve, you have to become better to fix it. 100%.
Well,
Those
mindset is so important, right? I mean, real estate investing, you can have the tools, the resources, the calculations, the exit strategy, all those types of things that you need to have as an investor, but you also have to have that right mindset that, hey, if I have a problem, and hey, we've had a lot of course, we've had difficulties throughout our careers and our journey, but quitting was definitely never a solution. It's like, hey, how do we fix this? How do we make it better? How do we systemize this that maybe we're not doing so well? And taking the time to brainstorm with ourselves or with our team to find those solutions, and knowing that, hey, if you study any highly successful investor or business woman or man, chances are we've all failed at some point as well. We just decided not to quit.
No, it's the persistence that separates everybody else from
Yeah.
us.
Mhm.
Exactly.
It's not that we're too big to fail. It's just we're too stupid not to.
We're too stubborn
Yeah,
to
too
fail,
stubborn to
right?
give up. Exactly. I love that.
Oh man, it's an interesting path of entrepreneurship, and like a lot of people are like, oh, so what do you want to be in what are you going to be in 5 years? I think it's like a moot question to like entrepreneurs because like the path is like laid in front of you. You can only see so far, and you kind
Mhm.
of like there's many paths you could take, but it's just one of those things where like it's like laying in front of you. The brick is being laid in front of you, and you're like you don't know where it's going to go.
I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah.
So, what is a book that, and this is for both of you, what is a book that you like your best business or mindset book?
Um, I'd say I love the book. I listened to it many times when I used to work full time and I was running Be Obsessed or Be Average by Grant Cardone, and it was more on the mindset piece of things, but it definitely allowed me at a point in my life where I perhaps didn't have the confidence. That who's this little northern girl that I grew up in a small city with no streetlights that could become a successful big investor and quit her job, uh, just to be able to allow myself to think big and take big action and be comfortable with that. So it definitely helped me with my own,
Hmm.
I guess, confidence in allowing it and knowing that, yeah, of course it's okay to think big and take that big massive action because Sometimes I would definitely get that negativity of, hey, why do you want to do this? Just, you have enough properties, just stop. But I don't want to stop. I want to, and I'll never stop. I'll do different types of projects. And even now we're continuing to do different things, of course, as we evolve as investors. And I think that's part of life. You should want to grow and do different things as well. So that would be mine.
And no, and I like that. And mine kind of compound. The be obsessed or be average, BOBA, almost gives you like permission to be who you are, an entrepreneur, and don't listen to the other people. And I know I already mentioned Rich Dad Poor Dad, so that's obviously one, but 10x, right? And I know it's Grant Cardone again. It's just, and this makes me think of you, because what was your goal? By the time you wanted 40, you wanted 10 properties or something?
Yeah, so in my 30s, I met Dave, and let's rewind here for those who don't know me. Like, I had gone through a divorce, and we're still friends today, but it was still very, very difficult. I'm living in a small 2-bedroom apartment with my girls, and I'm saying, hey, by the time I'm 40, I'm gonna have 10 properties, and everybody would tell me that I'm crazy, or why would I want to do that? And by the time I turned 40, I had 27 properties. Probably because of having and thinking big, and not just
goals,
thinking big, but also taking that action behind it.
So probably 10x, yeah, for those kind of. I know they both kind of. Anyway, they're both the same-ish, but those would be the 2 books, I guess, Daniel.
I think I've never read the 10x, but I live it. But I'm not a reader myself, so like I always. The trick is, if you're not a reader, join a book club, because they break down all the nuggets for you.
That's a great tip. I love that. I thought you were going to say audiobook, but I love that idea too.
No, well, I mean, it's the other thing too. Like when you, and this, how old are your kids right now? Because you said you had kids earlier. And maybe
so 17, 14, and a little 7-year-old.
So my kids are young. I got 5, 3, 2. So I'm all over the place, like chasing little ones around the room and picking them up and throwing them across the room and stuff like that. Still.
And today was funny. Today we're talking about that flexibility, right? Being investors, and today we spent our morning at our daughter's
with the 17-year-old,
with my 17-year-old,
at our high school, applying to 3 different colleges with the guidance counselor, right? But the beauty is we didn't have to ask a boss. We just went. We just didn't come into the office. We just went there this morning instead. So it is cool.
So are your children interested in what you do, or they're planning to go off to college and do something else?
And it's kind of hard because they're so young. I would say ish. Like right now, I think they all see, I think, the value. Even my little guy, I remember taking him to Disney, and he said, Mom and Dad didn't pay for this vacation. The properties paid for it, right? So he gets the mindset of it, and my daughters get the mindset of it. And I don't think that's necessarily what they want to do full time, at least not yet. And that's completely fine. I want them to love their passion, do what they do. And that's a cool thing about it. But they understand that, hey, for example, they love horses. Well, it's expensive to own horses and all that. Well, if I have some properties, I can do what I want during the daytime and have that help with the money that needs to come in to live the lifestyle I want to live, type of thing. So I don't think full-time investors as of right now, but they're still so young. I had no idea I wanted to be an investor at 17 either. So,
well, the cool thing, and I'm just thinking, like we talk a lot about succession planning lately, and what happens, and doing the wills with the lawyers and all that doom and gloom stuff. And you start thinking, well, what would be best? And it's not necessarily replicating exactly our footsteps, but I kind of like, we've been talking with a lot of different lawyers and attorneys and estate planning people, and I kind of like some of the different, like for example, the 17-year-old's going to graphic design. Okay. So maybe she doesn't have to be an exact real estate investor, but what if down the road it could be something that complements the business, right? Where we leave them real estate and maybe they do or whatever, if they become something else in their field that they want to do, and maybe it complements down the road. Anyway, so it's just
design my next book cover or something.
Well,
Who knows?
Things like that, right? Where it doesn't have to be the main thing is not real estate, but maybe indirectly. So anyway, it's kind of having those conversations with them, but try not to force them into anything that they don't want to either, right?
Well,
it's not
really,
for everyone.
Exactly. It's really about living their best life. And if they want to actively do that, then that's great. Or maybe it's going to be more passive and they just have a few properties in the background, and that's amazing as well.
No, I think it's awesome. I still have young kids, so I'm always like in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't want them to get older, but every time I look at them, they're getting bigger and they're getting heavier to lift.
It goes so quickly,
That's
of
so quick,
course.
yeah.
So, yeah, but just involving them and involving them in different aspects. I think they. I mean, I remember when I used to do my own property management. Sometimes the kids would come with me, and I would do the viewing. Or after a tenant might have destroyed the property, I would show them, and out of having that exposure was great experiences for them as well. Just to being able to know, well, what kind of lifestyle do I want, and what people sometimes do, and to be grateful for what you have as well. So.
I think one of the coolest things, like this is like my first year that I like traveled a lot, and it was kind of cool to like take my family with me, even though they weren't there or watch me or whatever. It was just kind of cool knowing they're somewhere on the property enjoying themselves, or they went out to dinner with friends with people in the area or something. It was kind of cool to take them with me on business trips.
That's
To
great.
knowing they're there with me, it was kind of cool.
That is cool. Yeah, well, that's a good feeling, Daniel. Good for you.
Yeah. So, tell us a little bit about your community. What can people learn in your community? And is that at investormeldave.com?
Our website's investormeldave.com, and we're on all social media platforms, on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and it's always Investor Mel Dave if you wanna follow us there. We have different content every day. But yeah, our community, it's called the Action Family Mentoring Program, where we show people how to buy properties using none of our own money and no joint venture partners. It's a nice big community. They're getting us directly, so they're not paired off with anybody else. We're their coaches. We answer their questions very regularly. Dave does a live with them every single week as well.
Workshop.
So there's lots of things and I mean, there's
daily Q&A in the Facebook groups.
Yeah.
We introduce them to all the pros that we use. So yeah, we're trying to be as hands-on as possible, and I think that's why it's been so much success, right? It's well, what's that saying? Get it directly from the horse's mouth. So it's like, hey, we're the ones who had thousands of tenants and have issues, so it's learning directly from someone who's been there, done that.
How long have you been doing the community?
Well, it started after. It's funny. I never thought about becoming a coach.
Same here.
It's not something we thought of. We bought a lot of properties, and that was.
We
kind
didn't
of
share anything. Like we had a huge scarcity mindset. Like our parents, our friends, and we wouldn't tell them anything. And it was like, you know, it was
my
big
mom asked
secret.
me if I won the lottery. I'm like, no, mom. It's
how you buying
like, it's illegal. I'm like, yes, mom, it's legal. Don't worry. And our mindset shift in 2018. We were in a really bad highway rollover crash. We were passengers in a vehicle
just outside of Toronto, Canada.
We rolled 4 times, landed upside down. So it was we almost died. They don't know how we were able to survive. And it was the day that changed so many things. I never ended up going back to work after that. And it just completely changed my mindset on how I want to live and what I want to be known for, and being able to pass on the knowledge to other people as well.
Well, and the biggest thing, and Daniel, you're a parent, so the biggest thing for us is like, our kids wouldn't even know how we're buying this, like, because we're so secretive. And that was the thing. We're like, we got to change that. Like, more people should be doing this. Our kids need to know how we're doing it. And that's when the Action Family was.
Now we have created hundreds of documentations and videos and all that kind of stuff. So they'd be well in their way if ever something were to happen. But yeah, that's where it kind of started. So it was in 2018 that we started.
2018.
Yeah. And then
early 2019-ish is when we did the betas and we did the, anyway. So yeah.
No, and the big reason why I do this too is because like I can't have a business conversation with my 5-year-old or my 3-year-old. They don't even understand what I'm saying. So like one of the biggest reasons why I do this is because I might pass away tomorrow, but there's a lot people can watch my videos and know who I really am, and that's kind of like my personal side of why I do this is because, like I said, I don't know how long I'm going to be here, but these videos will always be out there forever, and I hope they inspire somebody to eventually go down the path I did. Because the crazy thing about it is somebody inspired you. Somebody inspired me. Somebody was the inspiration for you to do what you do. So it's very selfish of you not to give back and produce that content and just release everything you got and give it freely.
Yeah, and Gary Vee says the same thing too, right? One day, like Gary Vaynerchuk, and you're making me think just of him, is one day when we're not here, our grandchildren and their grandchildren will be able to watch our videos, right? So it's kind of cool to do all this kind of stuff.
It's it feels unreal, but I didn't even think about that far. I'm like my grandkids. but you're 100% right. You're 100% right. Like it's like I wish.
Who knows what they'll be saying about us? But hey, at least I'll get to see it, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like it's one of those things where like the technology has been able to extend your personality, or like before it was just books or people writing about you by autobiographies, stuff like that. But like, not every person has stuff written about them. Like, you might not even know anything about your great grandparents at all. It's one of those things where like there was nothing written about them. There was nothing. They lived their whole life and generations passed, and you're here today, but you don't never knew who they were. And I think it's an opportunity missed, 100%.
I agree with you.
So it's definitely an interesting time and day and age we live in. I might be a hologram for somebody else, It's an interesting world we live in. But I love community. I love that. I love people that, for everybody out there, anybody can start a community. It is not hard. It's just putting out valuable content, and the people will come to learn. Do you have a crazy story from somebody from your community? I'm sure you have tons, because I have a ton too. But can you think of like one good story, maybe one from each of you, about some crazy win that your community member had?
I have one. Yeah, I'll go first if that's okay. I have this lady, and if ever you want to see the full episode, it's on my Investor Mel Dave YouTube. I have a Woman of Action series, and her name is Camila, and her husband had immigrated from Jamaica to Alberta, and they joined our mentoring program. And what I love about her story, she said, I thought this was for the rich. I thought buying real estate was for the rich. And, they were scared, of course, when they first joined, right? Joining a mentorship program and thinking, well, I don't have that many funds, and who's going to want to lend me money? I don't know anyone. And they joined our community. They bought over 100 units since joining our community in less than 2 years. Now I see them, like I saw them a couple of weeks ago. They went on a month trip somewhere, which is absolutely amazing. So when I interviewed her on my show, I said, well, how did you raise all that money? And she actually raised the money inside the community, inside the Action Family Mentoring Program, which was pretty neat, just by networking and being, because we're active in there every day, and so are our students. So it's a pretty powerful story.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's super cool.
Absolutely amazing, and I just love it. Like, it's just so inspiring.
And there's a lot of people. Yeah, I'm just thinking as well. One that really sticks out to me is Zoe and Ted as well. They had immigrated. We have a lot of people that are Canadian, U.S., new to Canada, new to U.S. So they had immigrated as well. And when they met us, they went to the banks, right? They went to the big banks, and the bank said, you can't buy a house. So they were renting, and they were like, we can't even buy a house. We want to buy properties. Like, what are we going to do? And fast forward, I think about a year or two later, they now own their home, right? They're in a house, and they own 20 units. Actually, sorry, not 20. They own 28. They have 20 units. They recently just purchased 8 in Florida.
In the States, yeah.
That's right, in Florida. They did 6 properties for 8 units, 100% financed. So it's just cool to see, from banks telling you, hey, you can't even buy your own house, to now providing housing to 28 different people and having their house. Like, it's just...
We got to meet them in person too at an event
it's pretty cool stuff, right?
Recently speaking at, which was pretty neat. So.
Man, that is amazing. I think for everybody who's immigrants or wants to invest overseas, like it really shows you that owner financing and creative financing is the key to creating that wealth you want. And that's the one strategy that the banks ain't gonna deny you if you get a loan directly from seller. They can't stop you. Man, this has been an amazing episode. I hope everybody found value in that. And like I said, I think it's amazing what you're doing in the community. I love community, and it's given me like different inspiration to really know what can be done even without you. It's just a movement you created where people participate and they share knowledge and money and funds, and there's just a lot of things happening in the background that never happmes without the community that people just fell into. So
I agree. People say that to us all the time as well, Daniel. Like, why do you do this? Well, even we talked about Dominican Republic. Those we bought 2 properties there. They're actually from our students they're from New Jersey. They bought 2 properties. I believe it was in New Jersey. And they're the developers for 100 unit in DR, for example. And we've
invested in their deal. Yeah,
we bought 2 of them because I love the deal so much. You just never know, and I never expected that, of course, when they first joined. But you just never know what can happen. Which I'm with you. I love the community.
All right. Well, there you have it. Thanks for coming on today. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Investor Mel Dave. on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Just Google them. I'm sure you'll find a lot of information. InvestorMeldave.com. Thanks for coming on. This has been a great episode. Thanks for your time and the contribution you make to the world.
Oh, you know
Awesome.
what? Thank you. You were amazing to speak with. We had a lot of fun. So
Yeah,
thank you so
appreciate it.
much
Thank you so
for
much.
having us.
There you go. See you on the next episode. We'll see you next time. Have a good day. Bye.